Allow me that I welcome you to our third presentation, and the third presentation is based on the scientific foundation. Today we are going to explore, or we are going to experience the fascinating topic that we talk about connecting science and faith, especially in the area of health. For many years, science and religion have been often seen as in opposite. But when it comes to the healthy and the well-being, something interesting is happening. They are actually coming closer together as we look into this. Therefore, it is of greater importance that we understand the aspect of how science and faith works. Let's look into the biblical anthropology. What do we mean by the biblical anthropology? Here we are referring to the whole being. This is the whole person in general. The Bible presents a powerful idea that human being, that we are a whole person, we are not divided in anywhere, or we are not separate in parts. It is what we call as biblical anthropology. It teaches that the body, the mind, and the spirit are deeply connected to one another. What affects, one's part affects the whole part at the same time. So if we take care of our bodies, you will also improve, your mental and even your own spiritual well-being. This is very critical. But if we don't take care of our health, then it means that affects our spiritual mind. Number two is the science. How does science confirm the wholeness of a person? Modern research strongly supports the idea of wholeness. For example, we talk about exercise, doesn't just strengthen the muscles. It also improves, such as mood, such as reduces stress, and also it sharpens the memory, meaning the reasoning, changes and improves. Eating a healthy, breakfast, for example, it improves the concentration. It gives one energy to perform the duties. And in the terms of academic, the performance will be extraordinary. Why? It is because one is given, or one is having something that one is eating. So this shows us something is very, very important. What do we do when we talk about the physical directive impact of our mind and emotional health? Science is essential, confirming that the Bible, taught, some thousands of years ago in terms of how healthy is all about. When we look into this one, we can also look into the behavioral, a part of it, where we talk about the behavior and the law. Let's look into this one that we can be able to understand what we mean by the behavior and the law. We are saying the field studies, how our behavior affects our health. It looks at what habits leads to diseases, what are the things that leads to diseases, and then how lifestyle, choices that we make also impact the long term of healthy that we have. Interestingly is that this aligns closely with the biblical teaching that the Bible, teaches that obedience to God is something that is naturally law, or is being followed by the law, or it leads to one to be healthy. Ignoring these can lead to diseases. When we ignore the science, or when you ignore the biblical principles that are stated, one will be able to experience the difficulties that are there. And we talk about the lifestyle related diseases. There are some of the diseases that are, taking place today just because of the health lifestyle that we have. For instance, we talk about the biggest health problems in our world are not just in terms of infection or injection, but chronic, diseases such as heart disease, cancer, diabetic, and obesity. These diseases develop slowly over time and are largely influenced by the lifestyle. And this time around, I can mention that especially in our country, Namibia, we have quite a number of deaths that is happening where many people are dying of cancer. And one is asking a question, what is really going on? I believe and understand that it is just because of the food that we are eating. It has developed a situation where many people, are getting this kind of strange disease that we've never seen before. And it has not been a very common disease, especially people that come from the Zambezi region, because normally they looked into or they ate more of natural, fruits that or natural, just food that were there naturally, and these were not really very common. But today we can see our elderly people, we are losing them one by one just because there is quite a number of food that is being eaten that was not supposed to be eaten. So lifestyle, is a matter of choice, and this is very, very critical. It is simply the way we live every day. That's what talk about lifestyle, the way how we live every day, the food that we eat, the things that we do. Here, with my young boy and others that are here, we understand that we are trying even to cut on issues that are very critical in terms of the food, because it causes quite a lot of, diseases. For instance, what we eat matters a lot. How active we are. Today you discover that many people do not even exercise. They drive from their home, they go to the workplace, and then from there they drive again, they come home. There are very few people that are doing exercise, and we can see people that are not active in terms of exercise. We can see a number of deaths that is happening. And how we manage stress also matters a lot. The habits we build. And here is the key, message that I want to also put across, that many diseases can be prevented through better lifestyle choices. Better life choices, in other words, the thing that we do and how we do them also matters quietly, very significantly, and very, very important. And the Bible, or the biblical, or the Bible ahead of science, how does the Bible looks into this? What is really truly and amazing is that the Bible emphasizes these principles thousands of years ago before they even take place. It's very interesting to learn that, especially on the other presentation that we're talking about in terms of the spirit of prophecy, you discover that these things were being stated some years back before they could even come into existence, and we can be able to see the impact that they have today. The Bible, teaches us that personality or personal responsibility for health is very, very important. The importance of discipline and also balancing how we live. The connection between behavior and the wellness is also very important. Today's science is catching up and confirming that this is definitely true in the sense of how we live and how we do things. As I conclude, what is very important is that science and faith are not enemies. They can come together. Both shows us that we are a whole being, and our choices matters a lot, and a health lifestyle can prevent many diseases. So the bigger takeaway for this presentation is that taking care of your body is not just a physical act, it is a spiritual responsibility and a wise scientific decision that one must be able to look into. Therefore, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time just to listen in terms of how science and Bible, are linked together in terms of how they articulate the aspect of healthy, how we need to live, the lifestyle that we do, and the kind of diseases that we are experiencing today in this world just because of the food and the way how we are living. We do not exercise. Therefore, it is very, very critical that we need to be able to be exercising every now and then. Thank you so much.